What if you could hold a piece of history in your hands? Imagine touching an actual object from the American Revolution, a time when a new nation was forged in the fires of war. It sounds like a scene from a history book or maybe a museum display, but it's actually possible thanks to archaeology. These items are more than just old things. They're keys to understanding a pivotal moment in world history. So let us embark on a journey back in time and discover what these artifacts reveal about the Revolution. These tiny objects are actually incredibly significant. They're musket balls, and they offer a direct link to the weapons used by soldiers during the war. Interestingly, these little balls are not just uniform. In size and weight, they can vary depending on the specific firearm and the intended use. Sometimes you'll find them flattened or deformed, a grim reminder of their destructive power. Occasionally, archaeologists even turn up buck and ball loads. This type of ammunition consisted of a larger musket ball accompanied by several smaller pellets, designed to increase the chance of hitting a target at close range. The iconic red coats were a symbol of the vast British Empire and its power. Shoulder boards, lapels, cuffs, and buttons bore the emblems of the British crown, denoting their loyalty to the king. You're a soldier in the Continental Army, and life is not easy. These tasks might seem basic, but in the context of the Revolution, they were full of challenges. Cooking was essential for survival. But imagine trying to prepare a meal with minimal supplies and resources. But have you ever considered the role of trade and money during this pivotal period? It's a fascinating aspect that often gets overlooked. During the American Revolution, the economic landscape was in flux. Loyalists who supported the British rule might have preferred British currency, while patriots leaned towards colonial or even French currency. Imagine walking into a market and trying to buy goods with a mix of British pounds, continental currency, and even Spanish silver. It was a confusing and unpredictable situation. Many soldiers were not cooks by trade, and their culinary skills might have been limited. These objects, ranging from well-known coins to everyday trade beads, offer a unique perspective on the economic and social dynamics of the time. Colonial coins, including the iconic 1794 silver dollar, can provide insights into early American coinage and the beginnings of a distinct American currency. But it wasn't just about coins. People traded all kinds of items, including livestock, grain, and even enslaved people. And archaeologists have found evidence of this bartering system, too. Think of a farmer trading his extra corn for a barrel of imported sugar. These transactions were not just about economics. They were about survival and maintaining a semblance of normalcy in a world in turmoil. Trade beads, often made from shells or glass, were particularly valuable because they were lightweight, durable, and held immense cultural significance for many Native American tribes. They served as a form of currency in trade networks that extended beyond the immediate war zone. Picture a Native American delegation visiting a colonial outpost in exchange for essential goods. Like tools, firearms, and textiles, the trade bead played a vital role in these encounters, symbolizing value and facilitating exchange. Uncovering these beads at Revolutionary War sites underscores the complex web of interactions between colonists and indigenous peoples. During this turbulent period, they serve as tangible reminders of the lasting impact of the war on cultural exchanges and alliances. The food itself was often hard to come by and sometimes unfamiliar. Troops were issued rations, but those rations weren't always what was expected or desired. Soldiers might have received flour, but without the necessary tools to grind it, they were stuck with a useless lump. Creative problem solving and resourcefulness were key, and soldiers had to make do with what they had. Eating utensils were not a luxury, but a necessity. Back then, soldiers didn't have the convenience of disposable plates and cutlery. Instead, they used whatever they could find or make. Some might have brought their own eating utensils from home, while others might have shared items among the ranks. In times of scarcity, items like tin cups or bowls might have been put to double use, serving as both plates and bowls. There wasn't always a clear way to separate eating and drinking vessels. Cleanliness might have been low on the priority list in such cramped, unsanitary conditions. But even amidst the grime, soldiers still tried to maintain some level of hygiene. Brushes and combs might have been used to keep hair and beards somewhat tidy. but in the absence of proper sanitation facilities. Personal care was a delicate balance between necessity and practicality. Then there are the more personal items like writing implements, playing cards, and even tobacco pipes. These items offer a glimpse into the soldiers' attempts to maintain a sense of normalcy and comfort in a world turned upside down. They might have written letters home on scraps of paper or exchanged playing cards for a moment as distraction. The humblest of items, like a pipe for smoking tobacco, might have been a source of solace and familiarity. Archaeologists have uncovered a wealth of such personal effects. These items are not just remnants of the past, they're a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. Imagine the conditions in which these soldiers lived. Most of the year they're on the move, often enduring harsh weather and limited supplies. Only a fraction of them had tents, meaning many slept out in the open with little shelter from the elements. It wasn't uncommon for soldiers to share a small tent with multiple men, adding to the cramped conditions. Life in these camps was not just tough, it was a test of endurance. A button stamped with the initials GR for King George II or George III, for instance, is a clear indicator of British affiliation. On the other hand, the Continental Army, representing the Americans, had less standardized uniforms, often using whatever they could get. These uniforms might have been a hodgepodge of styles, colors, and decorations, but their lack of standardization also presented a challenge. How do you distinguish one American soldier from another? Enter the humble button. American military buttons, often made of brass or pewter, typically displayed regimental numbers. The letters CA for Continental Army, or even patriotic symbols like eagles or the number 13, signifying the original colonies. These buttons aren't just markers of identity, they're a way to track troop movements, engagements, and ultimately better understand the uniforms of the time, which often changed as the war progressed. Over the years, archaeologists have carefully collected, examined, and cataloged these buttons. Now housed in museums and private collections, they offer a tangible connection to the men who fought and the events that shaped a nation. Each button is a silent testament to the bravery, struggles, and sacrifices of those who lived through the American Revolution. The use of buck and ball reflects the desperation and ferocity of combat during the Revolution. Back then, warfare was largely conducted with smoothbore muskets, and these single-shot firearms relied on simple lead projectiles. All of these pieces of weaponry tell a compelling story of the firepower and tactics employed during this pivotal period. Soldiers would load their muskets by pouring a measured amount of gunpowder down the barrel, followed by a single lead ball. When fired, the gunpowder ignited, forcing the ball through the barrel at high speed, creating a deadly projectile. These seemingly insignificant objects are actually invaluable historical treasures, and here's why. Back in the 18th century, military uniforms weren't just about appearance. They were a way to identify which regiment or even which country a soldier belonged to. The American Revolution saw two primary sides, the British and the Americans, each with their own distinctive uniforms. These rounds were meant to be effective at relatively short ranges, often used for volley fire or in close quarters combat. The American Revolution, also referred to as the War of Independence, was not just a political upheaval. It was a transformative period marked by intense military conflict, ideological struggle, and the forging of a new national identity. While textbooks recount the battles and speeches that defined this era, archaeology brings the past to life in a deeply tangible way. The soil of the United States still hides a treasure trove of artifacts objects that bear silent witness to the pain, courage, survival, and daily life of those who participated in this monumental struggle. From the boots of soldiers to their bullets, from camp cookware to handwritten notes, these relics tell a human story that written records alone cannot convey. And in today's video, we want to introduce you to some of the most amazing archaeological finds related to the American Revolution. 1. Musket balls and weaponry. If you've ever visited a historic battlefield or museum dedicated to the American Revolution, chances are you've come across these small lead spheres. Revolutionary War sites across the United States have yielded countless musket balls, offering a tangible link to the soldiers who fought there. Besides musket balls, researchers have unearthed flintlock mechanisms, gun barrels, bayonets, and even fragments of artillery shells. No. 2. Uniform buttons and military insignia. Imagine you're standing in a museum gazing at a worn but sturdy piece of metal. That unassuming artifact could be a uniform button from the American Revolution. The British forces, often referred to as loyalists, wore uniforms that set them apart from the colonial population. Number 3. Camp life, tools, cookware, and personal items. Picture this, it's the middle of the 18th century, but soldiers had to keep going. They had to cook meals, maintain their equipment, and stay somewhat clean. No. 4. Currency and trade items. When you think of the American Revolution, images of battles, soldiers, and leaders might spring to mind. Archaeologists have unearthed a wide array of currency and trade items at Revolutionary War sites. No. 5. Written materials, letters, diaries, and printed matter. Have you ever come across an old letter or diary and marveled at the thought that you were holding a piece of someone